欢迎回到美剧，我是爱燕。Welcome in everyone to my channel. I hope you all had a happy new year, happy holidays, and I hope you had a relaxing winter break, even if it means that you had to get away from your family or your family had to get away from you. I hope you at least had some time to yourself to relax, unwind, chill before we had to join the rat race again. So yeah, welcome in. And today's topic is going to be things that I tell myself if I started learning Chinese today in 2025. This might actually be a two-parter because there's two things that I would like to cover. And as much as it is for you, it's really for me because I need to know where I stand today, what are the lessons that I learned last year, and how I can apply it to this year or the upcoming years in my Chinese journey. So let's get into the lessons. There's really only three that I want to cover for this. The first one is not being overly dependent on tutors. I feel like this is something that happens very naturally. You know, when you're in school, you have infinite amount of time. Yes, you have quizzes, you have exams, you have homework. I didn't have any term papers, but I had labs. And you have infinite amount of time though. Like, you didn't have kids, maybe, you didn't have like a profession. So you basically, it's the world is your oyster type of situation. Which means if you started learning Chinese or any language in college or, you know, in those beginning years, then you probably went really hard at it, right? You had a lot of people around you who probably spoke the language, or you had internships where people spoke the language, or, you know, you just had infinite time and infinite resources. When you become an adult and you graduate and you have a profession, and this is all in my opinion, right? Because this is what happened to me. I had less time because I had to work all the time. And so what I did was I got a tutor to help me hold myself accountable. But what happened was that year after year, I started to realize that my Chinese was pretty much the same. Like, I wasn't improving. I wasn't really not improving. I was just always the same. And I kept asking myself, why is this the case? Why am I not improving? Why isn't my speaking improving? My listening improving? Like, why do I feel stuck in the mud? And eventually, another question came into my head. Well, what have you done to improve? What effort have you put in? And the answer to that was nothing. I mean, I went to my lesson 1, 2, 3 hours out of the week. I had my homework from my tutor, but then that was it. I wasn't really doing anything in between. And the reason being was because, well, I was just tired, but really that's just an excuse. I just didn't think to do those things anymore. I just got used to not doing those things. So as a solution, I decided I'm just going to take a break from tutoring. So I took a very long break and I decided I was going to do my own thing. I started listening to podcasts. I listened to a podcast every morning and every night. It did not matter if I understood the podcast 100%, 50%, 20%. All that mattered to me is that it had to be a podcast made by natives for natives. No HSK stuff, no beginner, intermediate, advanced stuff, just native material. And so that's what I did during my break. I listened to podcasts. I watched Chinese dramas, C-dramas. Side note, if you guys are also into C-dramas, please let me know down below and let me know what you've watched in 2024. Which one was your favorite? And I'll let you know if I saw it or not because I watched a lot of dramas last year, like too many. The third thing I did was I listened to Chinese and Taiwanese music all year. I went on a road trip 3 times last year. Maybe it was twice. And my boyfriend kept asking me, like, why is there so much Chinese music on your playlist? And that's when I realized, wow, I have more Chinese music on my playlist than like Sierra or Missy Elliott or whatever else I was listening to like the previous years. But it was really helpful and it was really nice and peaceful and I found some really cool soundtracks. So maybe I'll make one for you guys and you can just listen to it on your own. And yeah, the other thing I did was I started reading more. You guys who followed me before, you know that I started a reading challenge. It was supposed to be like a 4 or 5 month challenge, but ended up being a 3-month challenge due to other obligations. But yeah, I just started doing my own thing. And when I finally went back to my tutor 2 months later, I was scared because I was like, my Chinese probably died in those 2 months. I probably can't speak. I probably won't be able to understand anything. She's gonna say my pronunciation sucks. Like she's gonna reprimand me and be like, why haven't you been taking lessons? You know, this is all like K through 12 psychology where you're scared you're gonna get a bad grade. And so I go to my lesson and she actually complimented me. She told me that I sounded more natural, that my pronunciation sounded a lot better, and that my vocabulary had improved. And she was wondering what I had done differently. She was wondering not even what I did differently, just like what was I doing those 2 months. And I told her the same thing I'm telling you. And yeah, that's when I realized, wow, that method is really powerful. So yeah, don't be too dependent on tutors. Make sure you find creative ways to integrate Chinese into your life. Don't just be doing sticky notes everywhere, but try to listen to media or things that you would normally do in English. How can you do those things in Chinese? And that would definitely help. The second lesson that I learned is that you never know what you don't know until you need it. So when I went to China for the first time, that was the first time that I got to talk to people in Chinese, like face to face. And I don't mean face to face, but I mean like them being in the same space and reality and time as me. This sounds so dumb, but I guess I'm trying to say is that I'm used to talking to people now virtually like this, as I'm talking to you all now. And that was the first time that I got to speak Chinese with someone right in front of me. And that was kind of crazy. The other thing that was crazy was that I could understand what they said for the most part. And the third thing that was kind of crazy to me is that I didn't need a translator most of the time. There's definitely a clear turning point in my Chinese when I was in China. So when I was there, I was with other foreigners, and there was 6 of us that got really close. So we call ourselves the 6-pack. And 2 of us were native Chinese speakers, not me, but like 2 of them. And so they would go everywhere with us. So those first 2 to 3 days, whenever we would go somewhere, the locals would start talking to them. And it's not to be malicious, by the way. Okay, culture tip. It's not malicious if you're with a Chinese speaker that they talk to them before they talk to you. It's not racism. It's not discrimination. They don't mean any ill will. But the thing is that they understand that Chinese is a difficult language, that people have trouble, foreigners have trouble learning it. And so they will talk to them before they talk to you because they know that they understand them and that they'll just translate. And so that was my first 2 to 3 days, right? But that was fine because I just wanted to listen those first couple days. I didn't want to talk. Then we went to a night market in Jinan, which was like the best night of the trip. And we didn't go with other people. We just kind of like snuck out of the hotel and decided to go to this night market. And my 2 friends who were the natives said, all right, we're going to go off and do our own thing. And we were like, okay, we'll just like go walk around and stuff. And we started talking to vendors, to the shopkeepers. And it was just really cool because it was the first time that I realized that I could do this. Like, I could understand what they were saying. I could order food. I could do a lot of things. And I didn't need a translator for it. And I just didn't realize that I had that knowledge in there. It was just kind of a profound moment. And as we were walking away from the first vendor, I think we had gotten like some type of cake or something. I don't remember. But as we were walking away from that first vendor, I just got really excited with the 4 out of 6-pack. And I was like, oh my God, guys, like we talked to them. They talked to us. We understood it. We can freaking do this. Like, we're going to make this trip, Like, I just started getting so hyped. And they're like, yeah, we got this, And that was really the high point of my confidence. And yeah, I don't know. So basically the lesson there is you never know what you don't know. Just hang in there. Even if you're at the point where you can't talk, you're like, oh my God, I can listen and I understand everything, but I just can't talk. Don't worry about it. There is kind of this period of time in your brain where you just need time to just wait, and then once you hit that point where you don't have to wait anymore, you'll just naturally start talking. So don't worry about that. The third thing that I wanted to list too is, having some type of benchmark. So I think from now on, what I'm going to do is every 6 months, maybe once a year, definitely at least once a year, I'm going to make a video of me just talking in Chinese. The reason being is that I realized that I don't have a benchmark for myself. And you guys probably saw that video that I made very randomly last year, where it was just me talking about some manhua that I had read. So the manhua was called SQ Something the Mingzi Kaishu, or SQ Begin With Your Name. And that was actually the first manhua I ever read in Chinese, and that was like 3 years ago. And I really wanted to do a review of it in Chinese because I needed to know where my pronunciation was, what my vocabulary was. I know I made mistakes in it, but I just needed to do it. Why did I do it? Why then? Why at that point? I was just inspired. Like, I follow a lot of YouTubers, Chinese YouTubers, where you can see their progression. You know, like they started their YouTube channel so that way they can get better at English. In the beginning, they have like a very strong accent. They might sound very monotone, like they might have these intonation issues or whatever, but they're still pushing through it. They're still getting through it. And then a year, 2 years, 3 years later, they just sound fluent. And I was just like, you know what? I need to do that. I just need to start making content in Chinese, because if I don't do this, and then I'm never going to improve the way I want to improve. I'm never going to be where I want to be. And so the lesson here is really just try and set a benchmark for yourself. You know, you don't have to say this is where I want to be in 3, 6 months, 12 months, but you should say, all right, every 3, 6, 9, 12 months, I'm going to record something of me speaking Chinese. And then I can just do a playback in the end and say, this is where I was and this is where I am today. And so, yeah, that's basically it for this video. A little bit longer than I was expecting. Apologies for all the rambling. But if you like the content, feel free to like and or subscribe. And I'll have part 2 out rather shortly. Bye.